This episode of the Busted Wide Open podcast is brought to you by Blueberry. Blueberry offers the best media hosting, accurate listening stats, and their all-new PowerPress Deluxe sites, a no-setup WordPress website for your podcast with all the necessary links to share your show with the world built right in. If you currently produce a podcast and are looking for a better media host or looking to start a new one from scratch, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO and sign up for the best media hosting and a PowerPress Deluxe site to get your first month absolutely free. That's orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO, or just use the promo code BWO at checkout for your first month free. And with that said, enjoy the show.
I'm Ben from the Super Nerds UK podcast, baby. The best podcast in the world. And you're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast. A podcast for the common man, if you will. The wrestling fan who's fallen on hard times, baby. On the Orbital Jigsaw Network, baby, if you will.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome back to the Busted Wide Open podcast. If you're joining us for the first time, I'd like to welcome you to episode number 67. I'm Nick Howell.
And more devastating than a finger snap from Thanos, I am Sir Ian Dangerous, and we have just witnessed what is being known as the greatest Royal Rumble, the quote-unquote greatest Royal Rumble, and I don't know if we're going to really be able to back up that name for the show. I don't know if it was the greatest Royal Rumble ever, but it was certainly a Royal Rumble, and it certainly,
Royal Rumble happened.
There were certainly moments in here that will go down in history as being some very memorable moments. One in particular, which we'll get to, which may be the greatest Royal Rumble moment of all time. But I digress. We get ahead of ourselves on this. We are the Busted Wide Open podcast. Thank you for joining us. And if you would, please head on over to Facebook and join the Busted Wide Open discussion group. We have a lot of fun over there discussing the show, discussing wrestling, memes, and all the other fun stuff that we can get to. It was
quite lively this weekend, I should say.
Oh, yes. Yes, it was.
It was. The interaction and the conversations to all of you that are in the Busted Wide Open discussion group with us was fantastic. Thank you for chiming in and joining in those conversations. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us at BWO Podcast. We do chime in there quite a bit, and that's the best way to get our newest episodes as soon as they're released. But Ian, all controversy aside, we really have to look at the absolute breadth and scale of this show that took place in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia this past Friday.
Yeah, it was absolutely, you could tell from the shots that they got. First of all, the arena itself was huge, and the show that they put on was definitely, you could see where the money went. I think all of the pyro they saved up for the last year and a half, they used at this show.
Yeah.
We had fireworks, like massive show, like what normally would be like the end of a WrestleMania level of fireworks, multiple times during this show. You had this vast open arena of these, it looked like a WrestleMania set. The floor plan was a little weird, where you had like the royal family and all their buddies in these nice couches right around the ring, and then the rest of the peons out in the bleachers way out in the back.
Like, how did they even see anything?
Well, I think that's what the monitors were for, the big TV screens. But it was a weird setup, and I think it definitely hurt some of the product, in the sense that it seemed like a lot of the people that were in the couches at the front really could give two craps about what they were watching. A lot of people walking back and forth and on their cell phones a lot.
Had their backs turned every now and then.
Yeah. You had a few kids. You had some people kind of in the backs of those sofas, like getting excited. I saw a couple signs getting raised of people jumping up and down. One dude in Nakamura shirt holding up a Going in Raw podcast sign, which was kind of cool. I was like, Jesus, they have fans in Jeddah. But you could definitely tell that for the most part, it's not what you would expect from a WWE front row section.
No.
And I think that definitely hurt some of the matches in terms of excitement.
And there was also like 100 feet between the edge of the ring and the barricade.
That's what I mean, is usually those are all full up with seats, but for some reason, I don't know, security or whatever it was, that was just empty between the couches and then the beginning of the bleachers.
Well, it begs the question for me: is this one of the things that we should talk about before we get into the rundown of the matches? Or you tell me if we should save it to the end. But I didn't enjoy this as much as I wanted to. It felt very, very long. It took me 5 sittings to get through the entirety of this thing, mainly because I was trying to watch it at night before bed and I kept dropping off because it wasn't that everything wasn't crazy exciting, or it was pretty formulaic. It was pretty predictable.
Well, this is the thing.
You know?
I mean, obviously, we'll get into our overall thoughts at the end, but it was, I mean, as is being said on the internet, it felt like a glorified house show.
It did.
And we'll get into some of the reasons why as we get further in the show, a lot of them being the titles that changed hands, or rather didn't change hands, the way that the matches were structured in terms of, as you said, this kind of the formulaic nature of the matches.
Yeah.
And it didn't really, while the presentation was very monumental, the actual product itself, compared to what we're used to seeing at an event, not even this size, but just any kind of major event, it didn't have that same kind of weight. A lot of these matches, whether it be the finish or whether it be the outcome, the actual Royal Rumble itself, the 50-man Royal Rumble, was an interesting experiment as well, because they've never done one that long, and there were definitely ups and downs to the size. I thought that it was interesting seeing a lot of the different people that they had come out. That was cool, but it was a slog.
Yeah.
It was long.
This show was a long time to go.
I thought it was bad. It took me 3 sittings to get through this, but 5, man.
Damn.
Ouch.
Yep.
The other thing
I even had to go back one time and make sure I remembered the outcomes of some of the matches before we sat down and recorded this show today.
Nice.
So I wanted to talk about, we made a really big deal last week about the lack of women, and we really put ourselves out there, but we did get some, I guess you'll call them commercials during this on the network that featured some of the women, and I'm wondering, Carmella specifically, I think they did their We Are the World music video thing.
The We Are the World, yeah. They're by the way, from now on, the pay-per-views are co-branded was the ad. Well, the thing is that also played in the stadium, and they got in hot water for that.
Oh.
There was a controversy. So here's the thing. Not only did WWE not mention that their women weren't there, they didn't address it, they didn't bring it up at all. It wasn't even on the radar. But the one time they did show women, it was Carmella in her ring gear, which is, it's a skin tight singlet,
bathing suit,
essentially, yeah. And but it was shown in the stadium, and they had to make an apology afterwards for showing this clip of this American dressed woman in public. And actually the Saudi General Sport Authority issued an apology. It said the General Sport Authority would like to apologize to the viewers and attendees of last night's WWE event that took place in Jeddah over the indecent scene involving women that appeared as an ad before a segment. It would like to confirm its total disapproval of this in the shadow of its commitment to eliminate anything that goes against the community's values. The authority has made sure to ban showing of any segment that involves women wrestling or any scenes related to it, and stipulated that to the company, WWE. The authority also disapproved any promotional stuff with pictures or videos showing women in an indecent way, and emphasized on commitment of this rule. And it's a commitment that the authority would still commit to forever in all of its events and programs. Basically, what they're saying is, we can't stand that they showed women in this, indecent way, quote unquote, and we're never going to let them show women here. So Triple H's idea of progress, I mean, this could just be, the conservative arm of Saudi Arabia saying, no, but let's face it. Let's take a step back and say Triple H's idea of, oh no, we're going to help them be progressive. We got to get our foot in there and then we can help them be progressive. That's not the message they're sending with this.
But wasn't it though? Because they had a commercial with a woman in a headscarf talking about how progressive Jeddah and Riyadh have been, and women can drive now, and all of these things,
that
right?
Nice little propaganda piece, which is
right.
which is what I wanted to get to, which is this whole WWE show came across as a happy, smiley propaganda piece for how progressive Saudi Arabia is with its View 2030 program, with its new crown prince trying to act all progressive to the outside world in order to hopefully get more business in the outside world, and create a new future for Saudi Arabia that's free from oil. In order to do that, they have to play nice with everybody else. And to do that, they need to have publicity showing how happy and progressive they are. Well, the problem is that on the one hand, you have the propaganda that WWE was putting out there on their own show, and having their announcers talk about, et cetera, how great, it's Saudi Arabia is so beautiful, people here are so nice, which, by the way, I'm sure it is, and I'm sure they are. But the pandering that comes across when they do that, and all of the other propaganda that they inserted into the show, and then having on the other side Saudi Arabia turn back around and say, hey, all this kind of backwards mentality about women's rights and LGBTQ rights and all the rest that people have problems with, not to mention their poor record as far as international relations and funding terrorism and all the rest of it, blah blah blah. We don't want to get into that too much on this show, but the bottom line is that what we got was a big commercial for Saudi Arabia from WWE with some wrestling involved as well, and that left, for me at least, a real bad taste in my mouth, especially when they've said they're going to have another show here in November and potentially, 2 or more shows there a year going forward. To me, I think that they're staring down a potential PR nightmare if this continues.
I have one question before we get into the matches about how a good portion of the people that were in attendance in Jeddah knew entrances, were wearing superstar gear, knew all of this stuff, but they're going to be offended. So that tells me that they watch WWE programming. So they're going to be offended. Are they editing it before it gets to their TV screens to take out all of the women's matches? So how if they are this aware of all of the entrances and chanting along and singing along, they must watch. Ergo, how are they not seeing the women's matches on these weekly programming?
And again, not to get too deep into politics, but too late, part of it is much like here in America, you have the conservative arm of the populace and they tend to, control a certain aspect of things. And I suspect that quite a bit of the blowback on this is from the more conservative upper echelons of the society there, and that a lot of the society there, a lot of the people there are generally tend to be a little bit more easygoing with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You were, like you said, we were seeing a lot of Cena merch in the crowd. We were seeing, obviously, they watched the stuff, and there was a clip. Someone had a camera recording of the ad playing in the stadium and people's reactions, and the general reaction you hear is people go, you hear people kind of leering, going, ooh, and that kind of thing, but no one's going, oh my God, I can't believe they're showing this or anything like that. Right. You don't get the
no one's
outrage.
Jumping off the roof
There's
of the building
outrage.
going, oh my God, I saw a naked woman.
She has her hair down. Oh, how indecent.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's troubling. The bottom line is there's lots of aspects of the show that were troubling, but the fact is it was a WWE show. And for that reason alone, you and I need to talk about what happened on this show, because we are a wrestling podcast that talks about sports entertainment and WWE primarily.
Yeah.
And there was plot that will be kayfabe in the rest of their programming. And that's what we really need to talk about here. We've gotten the troubling aspects of this show out of the way. We've addressed it. They're there. We all know they're there. Let's move on and talk about the main show.
Yes. I want to say at the beginning, at the outset, that I was much more optimistic about the outcomes of this being a little more unpredictable. And maybe I was still riding high off of the very unpredictable WrestleMania that we just got done doing. But I got
well, unpredictable for everyone but you. You had a very good turnout for your WrestleMania.
Yes, I did. But I was hoping for more than what we actually got here. Yes, it took me 5 sittings to get through, because it was kind of exactly what everyone thought it was going to be for almost every single match. I was optimistic that they were going to swerve us on a few more things.
Yes.
And get a little, creative.
Yeah, well, you went in with the hopeful idea of what WWE could be and could be doing. I went in with the pragmatist idea, saying, no, this is WWE. Here's what's going to happen. And as all y'all listeners will hear shortly, I dominated on the pick'ems.
Yes.
So moving on to the first match of the night, we're going to talk about the very first match. They opened with John Cena versus Triple H.
Two of arguably the biggest international superstars of the last 10, 20 years. So obviously, let's get the crowd hyped up and let's get everybody going and see what they're made of.
Made sense, actually, once they did it. And you know what? It did get the crowd hyped up. They were super psyched for this. Triple H came out first, and that crowd was live.
Yes. I didn't know that they would enjoy having water spit all over them as much as they seemed to enjoy it. But when I recognized that there was a good 100 feet between the ring and the first row, it probably didn't matter at all.
Well, I thought the thing I thought they would be more not happy about is Triple H's classic crotch chop, the suck it, which he very happily busted out at John Cena at one point, and I kind of went, oh,
okay,
all right, Trips, you do you.
Yeah, but don't you look at a woman in a bathing suit.
Hey, man.
This was mostly much like a lot of other matches that happened tonight that we'll go over. This was one of those kind of it was very formulaic. It was a John Cena match. It was very spot heavy between the two of them. Lots of fists getting thrown.
It was a John Cena match at a Triple H pace.
Yes.
It was very, the word they like to use is methodical. Methodical match. It was basically just tests of strength and stuff like that. Like I said, it was a house show style match.
Yeah.
You know, not really that exciting of a match, really. It was more, I think it would be more exciting if I had never seen a WWE show, especially if I'd never seen it live, and especially if it was in such a big, presentational event. If I was there and I was a Saudi kid, I'd be freaking out over this match. I'd be like, that was amazing.
Yes.
On my couch at home in the U.S., I was kind of like, what are you guys doing?
I saw this in 2006.
Oh, Jesus. I've seen this on a dark show, So it was what it was. It was fine. John Cena did pull off the victory, which does make sense when you look at how many Cena shirts there were in the crowd.
Yep.
How much they were really playing to the kids, how many kids they cut away to throughout the whole show, but especially during this match. Cena comes out to like a long line of kids, boys and girls, high-fiving them all and telling them all it's time to have fun. John Cena obviously going to be the superhero, the international superhero here. So it did make sense. I'm glad he won because, as we discussed on our last show, the preview show for this, had Triple H gone over, first of all, I mean, Triple H should not be going over at this point, and Cena is the bigger star. He's the guy who's still more of the marquee guy internationally.
So, I thought a little bit too much about this, or not enough, I guess you could say.
I think that will be the theme of our show today,
Yeah,
Nick.
it kind of is. Triple H ends up taking the pin from John Cena after 27 AAs.
It was just two.
It was just
This isn't Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar.
Right. We'll get to that. But, yeah, John Cena wins. You win the first pick'em. So, 1-0. So far. Next up, we've got the Cruiserweight Championship, which was Kalisto versus Cedric Alexander, current champion.
Your hometown boy.
The hometown boy.
Yeah, your boy Cedric Alexander. Yeah, this. Now, did you think this was better or worse than the WrestleMania match against Mustafa Ali?
About the same. It kind of had, I would say, it was a smidge worse. I really enjoyed the Mustafa Ali match a little bit more than that. I don't want to use the word worse. I enjoyed the Mustafa Ali match a little bit more than this one, but they were both kind of on the same footing. It wasn't way too much like you can get out of the cruiserweights with all the flippy shit, but it wasn't boring. It didn't just sit around and do nothing. So this was fine. It was a great defense by Cedric. And, the ending was what it was. Let's get Kalisto out of the way. I think this was
a countering of the Salida del Sol into the
lumbar check.
Lumbar check.
That was beautiful.
It was a nice one.
Yep.
There was an incredible top rope seated Spanish fly.
Oh, his springboard. He sat on his butt.
Springboard
into the
Spanish fly, which was incredible. Audience completely no-sold it.
Right.
After the John Cena Triple H match, they were pretty dead for this match because I don't know if they know these guys or whatever it was. They
the curse of the cruiserweights.
No-sold this match. I actually like this a little bit better than the WrestleMania match, partially because they weren't screaming heart and soul at each other the entire time.
Fair.
And it had a better pace to it. It was not as many rest holds. It seemed like it moved a little bit better for me. But at the end of the day, a very average match, as you said, not really going to set the world on fire. But yeah, Cedric picks up the win. He's still the champ, as we both picked, as we both thought. They're not going to take it off of him this quickly in Jeddah. But yeah, I felt like it was the wrong crowd for this match.
So we both picked it. Score currently 2-1. If you're keeping score at home.
Keeping score.
Next up was the currently vacated Raw tag titles, featuring The Bar facing. Are we officially calling them the Deleter of Worlds?
They are officially calling them the Deleter of Worlds. Therefore, we are officially calling them the Deleter of Worlds. If you just want to call them Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy and spend all that many more consonants and vowels, then you can go right ahead.
Look, I really don't have much to say about this. I'm not a fan of the Matt Hardy Bray Wyatt team up in the first place. I don't think they're a legit tag team. I don't think this is going to last. I think it's a way to kind of usher the Bar out the door in a sense, get them over to SmackDown Live, and we can move on. And hopefully something happens this week on Raw where we set this Raw tag division in motion. That's really all I have to say about this match.
And that was really all it was for, was to put a little bow on the Superstar Shakeup, send the Bar over to SmackDown, and then have Bray and Matt have the belts on Raw and have people chase them. Because really, I think more in storyline than anything else, I agree with you. As a tag team, they don't have the chemistry yet. They've got a couple of nice little tandem things that they do, but Matt really can't move in the ring at all. And so Bray has been acting as the hot tag, and he did here, and he is an exciting hot tag. But the problem is Matt is not really an exciting wrestler anymore because he can't freaking move.
Yeah.
And the Bar have the problem of either putting on fantastic matches like when they were facing off against the Shield, or here where they just are kind of dull.
Yep.
And this was a dull match.
They very much just laid down here for Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. So
that was the point, was let's just get this over with. And it felt like a let's just get this over with match.
Yeah. And if we both did pick the Deleter of Worlds.
Yeah, because it's the logical thing. We're sending Sheamus and Cesaro over to SmackDown. Good luck there, boys.
Yep.
And now we can move forward with the Raw tag division. And all of the frankly, the revitalized Raw tag division. There's a lot of new talent in there. There's some guys who they need to stop having them be enhancement and really give them pushes.
Yep.
Revival, I'm looking at them. And there's a lot they can do with it. Well, AOP, that's the real question, is what's going to happen with them. Will Matt and Bray be transitional and AOP dominates them and then can take their rightful place as the Raw tag champs? Moving on, the U.S. Championship. Jeff Hardy.
Just to be clear, we did both pick them. So if you're keeping score at home, 3-2, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is going to go south real quick. I'm making a point of it. Go ahead. U.S. Championship.
U.S. Championship. Jeff Hardy versus Jinder Mahal. The first major botch of the night, by the way. There's really not much else to talk about this match. It was a match.
It was there.
Except for the part where Jeff Hardy goes up for the Whisper in the Wind, doesn't look behind him, Jinder's out of position, and Jeff Hardy basically just backflips onto the canvas, and Jinder, not knowing what to do, just drops, does a back bump, because I don't know if it was the breeze that knocked him over, having the commentary try to pick up and be like, trying to figure out what happened. Oh, the impact of Jeff Hardy knocked him off his feet. The wind as it went by, whatever it was. Oh, that was a bad botch. And here's the thing. I can't fault Jinder for it because he went with his instinct.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't know how it looked. He knew that Jeff just did a move and he's got to sell it. He didn't feel it, but it doesn't matter. If someone kicks at your face and they don't quite hit your face, you still got to sell it.
Yeah. So if you're in the top row of the upper deck in this stadium, you don't understand what just happened. You feel it looks like he hit him.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, unless you're watching on the monitors, in which case he missed him by a country mile. But at the same time, if anyone, I'm going to blame Jeff on this one. He didn't look behind him. It's not the first time he's missed someone with a whisper in the wind. It's Joe Widman, one of our guys on Facebook, pointed this out, that he completely missed him, and the commentary wasn't really picking up. They were just all over.
They
the
didn't know what
too.
to do.
So yeah, that was a bad one. But Jeff does retain. He ultimately does beat Jinder again. So he keeps the U.S. title on SmackDown. So here we go, Nick. Here's where your first big theory falls apart. You thought they were switching the IC belt and the U.S. belt.
Yep.
No, sir. Status quo.
Yep.
Status quo will be maintained.
Yes. Let's just tread water.
Yeah.
Let's get through this pay-per-view.
Basically.
What they did.
And you know what? Which I think is more appropriate. Keep Jinder on Monday without a title. Have Jeff have a longer run with the IC belt. He and Randy are obviously starting something over on SmackDown. Shelton Benjamin might be involved. This just makes more sense to me to have this happen. Unfortunately, when I was picking all of these matches, I was like, wow, there's a lot of matches where I don't think the titles are going to change hands. And that comes back to bite me later.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that because we need to talk about the SmackDown Live tag titles, the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos, which for some damn reason You thought the Usos were winning this.
And as I was watching the match, they had a flurry during the second half of the match where they were doing tandem frog splashes, they were doing tandem heel kicks, super kicks, and I thought, okay, they might do this.
It's called a last-ditch effort by the faces in a squash match.
I understand.
This was a glorified squash.
I've watched wrestling once or twice.
I'm just saying.
But I did get that impression going, oh, wow, they might actually pull this off. They might do this. They might flip these belts again. Nope. Should have just gone with a safe pick. It was basically a glorified squash match again.
Yeah, I saw them spending too much time with the Naomi angle on SmackDown to have it happen where the Usos take it off the Bludgeon Brothers without her help because she's not allowed in Jeddah.
Okay.
So I just could not see them dropping that angle just to put them on the Usos here. But yeah, this was a glorified squash match. Again, they're keeping the Bludgeon Brothers looking really, really, really strong, which is going to reinforce the angle where Naomi's going to come in and help the Usos.
She's going to be the thing that gets them over.
Right. If they ever do take it off of them or whatever the angle that they decide to go with, she's going to be involved somehow. So until we get that, and I have to look and see if they have already scheduled another match at Backlash. I can imagine that they probably would. But if they do, Naomi will be involved in that somehow. Mark my words.
So you did get that one. I got it wrong. You're up to 5-2 now, I believe.
I mean, at this point, Nick, it's just
this is all downhill from here,
all
guys.
Downhill
it's almost comical.
You don't even need to keep track.
Right.
I've got the numbers at the end. We'll come back.
All right.
But moving on, we got the Intercontinental Championship ladder match, 4-way ladder match. Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, and The Miz. This to me was the aside from the Royal Rumble, this was the match of the show.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this was probably the most entertaining. It wasn't just a formulaic, full of spots kind of thing. You got to see a lot, and you love ladder matches. I love ladder matches, so this was a lot of fun for me as well. I didn't get to see much of Samoa Joe. That was a little bit of one of my disappointments I took away, but I don't know if he's built for a high flyer style match like this.
Well, the very good point. I don't think Samoa Joe is really comfortable in the air. Yeah. And it was very centered around mostly Finn and Seth. And I had the feeling that there's a reason behind that. There's a reason why the end of the match, the finish of the match, was Finn climbing the ladder with nobody in sight, and Seth leaping from the outside from the top rope onto the other side of the ladder, scurrying up and grabbing the belt out of Finn's hands virtually, which was first of all a great finish.
Yes.
But it also keeps this kind of burgeoning rivalry between Finn and Seth going. And because that's going to be happening over the belt on Monday Night Raw, that's the storyline you push. And so that made a lot of sense to me in hindsight that would be the major story of the match, and The Miz and Samoa Joe were just there to kind of fill out the space and provide, other bodies. But this was a very entertaining match. As you said, I love ladder matches too. It did not have a lot of the things in ladder matches that I don't like. The long, slow climb up the ladder. People take their time. They didn't have a lot of that. You had some chaos. You had some use of the ladders, some creative use of the ladders, some gnarly spots to make you cringe. It had all of it.
And this was probably peak energy for the night.
It's certainly as far as in match. And it didn't start that way. The crowd didn't start off being that into it. And then they got into this match by the end because they just pulled you in. You couldn't help it. And it was a great visual at the end too, because when Seth pulled the belt off, the belt fell and hit Finn in the eye. If you watch, how Finn was busted open at the end of the match?
Yeah.
It's because the belt fell and hit him in the eyebrow.
Wow.
And
I remember Seth falling off the ladder, but I don't remember that.
If I went back and looked, I tried to find where Finn got busted open, because he got busted open right at the outside edge of his eyebrow.
Yeah.
And it created a really cool look where he was disappointed and devastated afterwards. And he had this beautiful, glistening swath of blood on the right side of his face. And it looked cool. I was like, where the hell did he get busted open? And I went and looked. It's the belt hitting him in the face.
Huh.
And, I don't know. It made a good visual for the end of this match too. So this was definitely the most entertaining match of the night, the most payoff. Although Seth did retain, as I called, they are keeping the Intercontinental belt on Raw. There's more to do there, and there you go.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see how they get Miz his title reigns, but I think with cross-branded pay-per-views, that's going to be a much better option for him. So I thought Miz was going to get it. You picked Seth.
Here we go, buddy.
Yeah.
I don't think Miz is getting it till I'm going to guess around October. I've said this before, but I think October is when he's going to get the.
I'll
nine.
say SummerSlam.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Good enough. Let's mark it down.
Yep.
Mark
You
it down.
heard it here.
Mark it down the way that you were saying that the Usos were going to beat the Bludgeon Brothers last week.
So next up, we had the
You're so
WWE
cocky.
Championship match with Shinsuke Nakamura facing off against AJ Styles. Was this better or worse than the WrestleMania match?
I thought it was better.
I thought it was way better.
I thought
I felt invested in it, like I didn't feel invested at the WrestleMania match.
But the thing is ultimately when you put all of their matches, because they're going to have more and more. We've already got a Backlash match with them. This is going to go on for a while.
All
It's going to
year.
be
all year long.
I don't know about all year, but it's going to go on for a while. I hope. It's when you line it up, the WrestleMania match is going to be seen as the calm before the storm, a technical match where two guys are fighting, but they don't really have that much vitriol involved in the match, right? It's just it's a competitive, almost a friendly match until the end of that WrestleMania match, and that's where things kick off.
Yeah.
And so now you've built to the next level where Shinsuke is, he's hurt AJ, he's hurt AJ's friends. Now the anger's there, the passion's there. They talk about how AJ losing control of his emotions, and he loses control of his emotions, and both of them get counted out in this match, which was a lame finish, but it's understandable. They didn't want to give away this match on this pay-per-view.
I agree with the decision to do it as a DQ like that, or a count out, I should say.
Well,
and I'm okay with it. Listen, you laughed when I said all year. Last year we got all year of Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton. So if I can get Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles all year, I will take it.
You got 3 months of Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton. You did not get all year. It didn't run that long. It just felt like it ran all year.
He wanted it Backlash, and he didn't lose it until what, October?
Well, Jinder had the title, but it wasn't Randy Orton the entire time.
It felt like it. It felt like a year.
The Jinder reign went on forever.
Yeah.
The Jinder Randy feud felt like it went on forever. If Shinsuke and AJ go on forever, I'm fine with that.
Oh, yeah.
And especially what they're doing with it right now. It's so entertaining. But that being said, we both called Shinsuke to win this because that's where they're going with this. At some point, Shinsuke, I believe, will take this title off of AJ.
Yeah, they'll ping-pong it back and forth.
Because that's just going to make that much more grist for the mill. You know what I mean? That much more stuff to do in this feud. I thought it was going to be here because at this point, we'd had no titles change hands according to my picks. And so I was like, they have to change some titles, right? Wrong. They didn't change this one either. And if they're not going to change it, you can't have AJ go over Shinsuke clean. This was the only real way out of it. It did feel sudden, the end of this match, and it was a letdown. But at the end of the day, if that's how they're going to do this, fine. I'm curious now. I'm going to pick Shinsuke again at Backlash. I'm telling you right now, because at some point I want that belt on Shinsuke and I want AJ chasing.
And I want him losing his mind and trying to get it back in a way.
Exactly.
Like you saw at the end of this match after the count out, he goes straight over, just bowls him into the timekeeper's area, grabs a chair, starts beating the hell out of him, springboards off of he's continuing to go on.
Beats him down,
you can
stands
see
tall.
him starting to come undone a little bit over this.
Which is another thing that makes me think that Shinsuke's going to take it off of him, is that AJ's getting to stand tall a lot. At least now he's not getting, crotch chopped. Although he did take a crotch chop in this match at one point. The Kinshasa did show up. It did show
And
up.
I don't think it'll be the last time either.
No. There will be a legacy of Kinshasas by the time we're done with all this.
I wouldn't be surprised if we got some kind of no DQ stipulation for the Backlash match.
I would love
after all of this.
You start giving me stipulation matches with AJ and Shinsuke, I'm all about it. So neither of us got this one right.
Yep.
But we did get the next one. We both got the next one right, and that was The Undertaker versus Rusev in a casket match. I actually ended up being Rusev Day because Aiden got involved too, although it was mostly Rusev.
And I think Aiden and Rusev did about as much as they could in this match to make it entertaining. I love The Undertaker. I love me some Undertaker. What wrestling fan does not love some Undertaker? But man, I wish he had stayed retired.
Same. It's the entrance is still amazing, and with all the pyro and all of the extra stuff they had to throw at this particular Undertaker entrance, it was particularly memorable. This was a fantastic Undertaker entrance, but the problem is once the lights come up and he has to start wrestling, it's just not as pretty. It's just not pretty at all. And Rusev did his best. I was actually shocked. Rusev looked stronger in this match than John Cena did at WrestleMania.
Oh.
He did.
Woo!
He got some offense in. There's a couple times where he knocked the Undertaker down, but obviously at the end, Undertaker just kicks the crap out of him, throws him and Aiden in the casket after giving Aiden a tombstone and a choke slam. But the tombstone looked a little ugly. I know that Aiden had to be helped to the back afterwards. I don't know if that was selling or not. There was definitely a report that Aiden was a little worse for wear because he was a little bit low in the tombstone and actually bonked his head on the ground.
I saw that.
Gave himself a little stinger or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, Undertaker unsurprisingly picks up the win here. Obviously, he's, there's a reason that he's not doing all his matches against Roman Reigns anymore. Like
Right.
he's got to get some of that prestige back. But man, he definitely got one of the biggest reactions of the night, as you would expect.
And that gong went off. That place lit up.
Oh, come on. I mean, to see an Undertaker entrance live, especially these days, is an event in and of itself. So I can only imagine for the real wrestling fans in that crowd were just goosebump city. Because I still am at home, man. Every time gong, goosebumps.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's we got to do it. We got to talk about it. The Universal Championship between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Again, this was horrible to watch. I'm just going to say it. Now, what I will say, just before management training, you always start with the good. I think this was one of the better matches between these two men. I want to say that.
Okay.
Of all things considered, this was one of the better matches between these two guys in recent memory. But it was a match of nothing but like finishing moves. There was not a lot of grappling and mat wrestling happening, which I guess, frankly, you'd come to expect. But with Brock Lesnar, I would expect some stuff, some throwdowns, something that's not just doing F5s and suplexes. And that's kind of what we got in this. And, of course, on the other side of that, about all Roman's good for is right hands, Superman punches, and spears at this point.
Yeah.
And he's turning into the spot monkey John Cena kind of stuff.
All they were doing in this match is hitting all the buttons on the controller when you're playing the fighting game and doing your super move. Like, it was just all that all the time. Spam the super move. Which not only does it depower the moves now the F5 does not look as devastating, the spear doesn't look as devastating. It doesn't make for an exciting match.
Nope.
And I mean, it does for a second until you realize they're just going to keep kicking out of each other's finishers, and it's kind of like, all right, what's going to happen?
Well, this time Roman had to get some back, so he put 27 spears on him, and Brock kept kicking out of him.
I think he'll even put out like 2 spears or 3 spears on him.
At least 3.
I mean, 2 in the ring, and then 1 to end the match, where somehow Brock got himself between the ropes and the cage, and Roman goes to spear him, goes through the cage wall to the outside. By the way, I will give credit to both performers here. One of the gnarliest bumps of the night. Like, I mean, go watch that in slow motion. Neither one of these guys comes down happy. I mean, that's a gnarly bump for Brock to come from that high with Roman Reigns on top of him. And Roman's arms and shoulders looked very awkward coming down the way they did on Brock. That just did not look pleasant.
I was concerned about his
all.
head. It kind of looked like, if you go back and watch it in slow motion, it looks like Brock had him in like a spike DDT. And I thought Roman essentially took a forehead shot into the ground, into the chain link fence on the ground. So that was my concern when these guys were doing this. Of course, you could see the zip ties flying, and this was all a setup kind of thing, but not to rule it. Spoiler alert. Sorry, kids. Why if you didn't watch it? But
why are you spoiling kayfabe for me, Nick?
I know. But the interesting part of this is that if the chain link fence is there, technically, do they touch the ground?
Well, so this is the thing is this was a botched finish because as they made sure to drive it home. Whoever leaves the cage and both feet touch the ground first is the winner of the cage match. Whether that's through the front door, over the top, whatever, it's the feet that touch the ground first. They made sure to drive that in before this match. But yet, they gave it to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar wins because his back hits first, even though Roman's feet hit the ground first as they both tumble out the cage awkwardly and hit the ground.
But did his back touch the ground, or was he still on the fence?
It touched it through the fence. I'll be William Regal. It's fine.
Okay.
It touched the ground through the fence.
Okay. Via the fence.
He hit hard enough, man. He had chain link marks all over his back. Yeah. The point is that this was a botched finish, and they had to do damage control right away. And I'm curious to see how they do damage control going forward, because this is going to be an easy thing for them to play off. Oh, the ref screwed up. Oh, Brock is Vince's boy, so Vince made the call through the ref's headset.
Right.
Whatever they do to play this off, and then Roman has something to bitch and complain about. Oh, I never really lost to Brock Lesnar. It was something else. You know what I mean? This is more stuff they can play with. The fact that it was a botch doesn't matter at all. It was just awkward having the commentary try to pick up the pieces after they'd spent, the previous 10 minutes saying feet touch the floor, feet touch the floor, and then someone wins because their back touches the floor first. So whatever. It was another Brock Roman match. It did not go how I thought. I thought they were going to finally. I was a sucker for the theory that they wanted a friendlier Roman Reigns crowd, which it was for the most part.
It was mostly dead.
They didn't
At
really
this
love
point, they
him.
were kind of done.
They didn't. Well, can you? And they still had the whole Royal Rumble to go. At this point, the one who had the most pop was Cena. I think.
Oh, of course.
Cena, Undertaker. Roman, not really that hot. I think Brock got a bigger reaction than Roman did. But the fact of the matter is, Roman didn't win. Brock won. Brock retains. They're still going to keep the title on Brock. We're going to have Brock going forward, which now lends me to believe they're going to start bringing CM Punk into the conversation about the length of the reign of Brock Lesnar. I don't know why else they would keep it on him this long. They're going to reference it at some point, and they're going to reference when he passes Punk's mark.
So you think he's keeping it till it'd have to be at least SummerSlam? Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank will happen just after he breaks the record.
Okay.
So I could see a cash in loss for this. Although that's how he lost it last time. This last time he lost the belt was to a cash in.
True.
So
that was 4 years ago.
Yeah. So
Oof,
I could definitely see that happening again. Although that would be a cheap way to get it off of him.
Yeah.
But bottom line is this: Roman Reigns is not the champ. We still have it on Brock. You called this. You did say Brock was retaining. You poor man to have that in your heart. No,
it's one of those things where it's some sour medicine to swallow, but it is what it is. And I see for me, it's not about the CM Punk thing. I think they're starting to recognize that Roman's not ready. I think they're starting to recognize that Roman isn't the guy. I think they're starting to recognize that nobody but Vince and Roman wants Roman to be the guy. And it's going to be a little bit of a shuffle in this year to figure out who that's going to be. Because I don't know if it's going to be Roman.
Well, I have an idea of who it might be, but to talk about that, we have to go talk about the actual Royal Rumble match itself. The 50-man Royal Rumble. This is just too much to talk about piece by piece. I think we just need to talk about the most memorable moments. And there is no moment more memorable on this entire show than
Hornswoggle.
No, although I was really happy to see Hornswoggle. I was like, little buddy's back. That's odd. He was fun. Just like, dumb Hornswoggly late 2000s fun. Fine.
Comes in, Samoan drop on Kofi Kingston.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Perfect time to bring him back. I don't want to see his gimmick come back. I don't want to see him wrestling in WWE again, but Royal Rumble's the time to bring back those dumb old gimmicks. That was fun. I was fine with it. No. I was going to say the most memorable moment would be Titus World Slide. Titus, if you have not seen this, if you're just listening to us to get your recap fix, you need to go stop listening to this. Push pause on our show and go to YouTube and search for this. Titus O'Neil comes running down the ramp at, I think 33 he was. He comes down the ramp full speed, catches a toe at the bottom of the ramp, and goes face first onto the mat and underneath the ring, all the way into the ring.
This is why they need to stop dousing themselves in water and baby oil, because he just kept sliding.
He just kept going.
And it came out later that night that there was some kind of sharp implement that he almost impaled himself with.
No, there was a strut that was right there too. When he goes underneath the ring, first of all, they didn't have the usual hard board there, right? With the LCD screen or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They didn't have that. And if they'd had that, he would have definitely hurt himself when he went face first into it full speed.
Yeah.
So he just went underneath the ring apron.
He literally went all the way underneath.
But you can... He had, I think, a toe still sticking out.
Yes.
But
it's hard. It's hard to keep a straight face.
I feel like...
And credit to Corey Graves.
Corey Graves.
Yes.
Corey Graves lost it. So the announcers didn't see it at first. They just saw Titus drop out of view, and they're like, "What happened to Titus?"
And then they start queuing up the replays.
They show the replay, and Corey Graves loses it for a solid minute. Coach no-sells it. Michael Cole loses it for a second, then comes back. But Corey is just inconsolable for a full minute, losing his mind. And they they showed the replay like 10 times.
Yes.
Whoever, Kevin Dunn, Vince in the back, had to have been crying, laughing, just like, show it again. Show it again.
Keep showing it.
Show that again, because it was so amazing. But yes, you could see the ring apron bending around a strut underneath the ring that Titus missed by inches. The fact that Titus wasn't seriously injured, he hopped, came back out, brushed himself off, danced right, jumped right in the ring and got right back into it. Like just completely, nope, nothing happened. We're good.
Yep.
It's a miracle that he was totally fine with that. But that was, oh God, it was 39 is what he was. He was entry number 39. Bless you, Titus. Bless you, Titus. You can go over to our Facebook discussion group. We had Titus memes up the hoo-ha over there. Jared McDonald was throwing them. Frank Swistak gave us some good ones. I have to say, so one of our listeners, Deuce Elefante, called out that he thought it was a work. I gotta say, dude, there's no way this was a work.
No.
There is you could not have done this
intentionally. I don't think you could have done it well intentionally.
You couldn't have done it this well intentionally because, I mean, he's so close to being injured in so many different ways. There's no way. You can really, like in slow motion, you can see him catch his foot so clearly.
Yeah.
That this wasn't like...
There was a lip where the rubber mat hits the bottom of the ramp and it came up over it, but you can see his toe catch the end of it.
And it's one of those things I'm always worried about when people run down that ramp to the ring.
I'm worried about blown out knees.
Blown out knees. Okay, you can see some of the guys like running very delicately when they come down there. This is one thing I've always worried about is that when the ramp ends and everything begins and the rest of the floor begins, I'm always worried about that weird transition there. And you see guys do like the little like shuffle run right as they get there.
Yeah.
This is why you shuffle run. Titus?
I don't know how John Cena hasn't blown his knees out doing that for 20 years now.
Oh, who's to say he hasn't?
That's a good point.
But, so let's talk about some other memorable moments. A lot of surprise entrants. You called out Hornswoggle, definitely a moment that popped me. There was randomly Hiroki Sumi, a professional sumo wrestler, came out very early on. He came out, I think, number 7, and you could hear the collective, huh?
Yeah. What?
From the crowd. He was there basically to face off against Mark Henry. They were fairly evenly sized. Sumi's a big dude who I've never heard of before.
Me either.
But apparently is friends with Shinsuke Nakamura.
Okay.
I don't know.
Get a legit sumo wrestler in there. I'm entertained.
I heard a rumor, and again, rumor, that when they were discussing the show, the Crown Prince asked, like, I want to see these guys. I want to see John Cena. I want to see Undertaker. I want to see Yokozuna. Obviously, very difficult to get Yokozuna to perform these days. So
that's delicate.
So the speculation is, well, they just got another sumo guy.
Yeah.
And there you go. You like sumo guys? Here's a sumo guy.
Sure.
Booyah. We also had some NXT call-ups that were surprising. Guys we have not really seen on TV.
Tucker! You had Tucker Knight show up.
Well,
and I was like, why didn't they bring Dozovich? Why'd you bring Tucker?
Well, Dozovich tweeted out, Tucky! Yeah. During this whole thing when he saw him on TV. I was surprised they didn't do Dozer too. I wonder if it's because they realized that Dozer is the kind of Shawn Michaels of the two of them, and Tucker's great. And let's show off a little Tucker beforehand, get him over before we have them come up together, so that people will recognize Tucker and he won't just kind of lose the spotlight.
Right.
I don't know. I have no idea why they would call up Tucker and not Dozer, but they also called up a guy named Babatunde, who I'd never heard of. This 6'10" monster. And a guy
standing off against Braun Strowman was pretty special. Was it Braun that he faced off against?
I believe so.
The big tall guy?
Yeah, I think Strowman came in and then just eliminated all the big dudes at once.
Yeah.
Babatunde, the other NXT call-up, Dan Matha, who we've seen on TV in NXT, I think once or twice, but another just enormous dude. And then Strowman also put out Big E and Titus O'Neil and a couple other dudes just right off the bat. Boom, 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 boom. Strowman he set the new record for eliminations, 13.
Wow.
Eliminations. And he came out late too. He came out 41. and he eliminated 13 people. He basically cleaned house. He came
Yeah.
out, cleaned house, and then took out most of everybody else.
And then they all ganged up on him.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
And then he did the big get off me spot where you
can hear the count, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah, you could.
Bad
you
mic
could hear
placement.
It. A couple other people that came out that was really cool. Great Khali came back. He got a good reaction. Looked like crap as always, but he got a great reaction. Shane McMahon. And so these guys were announced. Great Khali, Chris Jericho, Shane McMahon, and Rey Mysterio were all announced that they were going to come out. By the way, Rey Mysterio, another guy who got an enormous pop.
Yep.
Enormous
I didn't expect that at all.
Holy crap, he got a pop. And looked great. Kind of the same thing he did at the other Rumble earlier this year. Fine. That's all Ray can do. It's great.
Yep.
You know, I'm happy to see him out there. Shane McMahon was there to do a couple of big spots. He did a coast to coast on Strowman at one point, and then went for it again.
Oops.
And Strowman caught him on the top turnbuckle and hucked him from the top turnbuckle to the announcer's table.
By the neck.
Awesome. Best spot of the night, period. Hands down.
Yep.
Legendary. That was Shane, you madman.
Anytime he gets in a match, he has to have a high spot like that.
It is kind of his thing,
It's his
isn't
thing.
it? It's his thing. Poor bastard. But this was definitely a back and forth, anyone's game for most of it until the end when Strowman came in. Here's the thing. One of the other surprise entrants was Roderick Strong. And Roderick Strong, I think his most memorable moment in this was chopping the absolute crap out of the other big, probably the other big story of the match. He chopped the crap out of Daniel Bryan. And Daniel Bryan came in at number 1.
Yes.
And he was there until 48 other people were gone. He broke all of the records for length of match. Rey Mysterio previously had the record.
62 minutes, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Daniel Bryan went 13 minutes longer than that. Unreal. And he looked like hamburger at the end of this, mostly because of Roderick Strong chopping the absolute. I don't know if they were like flashing back to Ring of Honor or what the hell happened, but Roderick beat the crap out of Daniel Bryan. He beat the crap out of him.
I got to say, throughout the course of this, I was pretty confident in my pick. I was like, oh, okay, they're going to have a Daniel Bryan spot where they're going to run him end to end and have him win the whole thing. I could see that could be a thing.
I thought that might happen too once I realized they were letting him go the distance. Right until about the last 5 guys, I was like, damn, Daniel Bryan might do this. I might be wrong. When it came down to the end, and it was Braun Strowman, Big Cass, and Daniel Bryan, I went, they're going to go with the feud and have Cass eliminate Daniel Bryan, which is exactly what happened.
Yep.
Have Cass eliminate him, keep him from history, keep him from winning the whole thing, which just throws fire on this very nascent feud that they're having over on SmackDown Live that doesn't have a whole lot of heat yet. Bam. Now it's got heat. So it made all the sense in the world, and they're not going to give this to Big Cass right now. So
when he came out there at the end, I think it was 49th. He was the second to last guy, if I remember
he was
correctly.
49, that's
so
correct.
it was one of those things where I was like, oh, damn it, really? Okay. So I agree with everything you
His
just said.
His music is so underwhelming.
Yeah, and just him coming out is so underwhelming. But the idea that as soon as he came out, I knew that Daniel wasn't going to
The fix was in.
Yeah. I
And,
was like,
and it's
damn
interesting
it.
because
Okay.
there wasn't a lot of storytelling in this match. Like, not a lot of feuds outside of this match got advanced, except for the Daniel Bryan Big Cass one. And then kind of a little bit Bobby Roode and Elias had a thing going on at the one point where Elias...
I could get into that.
Elias had a good run there too. Elias looked real strong. He came in and eliminated most of New Day right off the bat.
And I love that he took his time going down the ramp.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he sang to everybody and he did his whole thing.
He had the Elias moment. I mean, that's the great thing about his gimmick and the way that they've presented it is it's very facile.
Yep.
You can have it with him in the ring, with a spotlight on him, talking crap to the audience. You can have him walking around. You can have him backstage with a guitar. It can hit so many different ways he can hit his gimmick. And it works every way. And then he can get in the ring and the dude looks good and he can wrestle. So that's definitely a guy to look at, especially because looks like he's going to be feuding with Bobby Roode, which we both said we're not terribly excited about. But I'm looking forward to being surprised by it.
I like both those guys. I don't want to see face Bobby Roode anymore. That's really that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, we're going to get it for a while longer though, just because they don't have they're balanced with faces and heels on Raw, so I don't see them turning him anytime soon.
Well, there were also some notable absences in this match of people that I expected to show up. Most notably, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Well, Kevin Owens was in it. He came out pretty close to the end. He came out 46, but he wasn't.
I must have been napping.
But
in one of the 5 times it took me to get through this pay-per-view. So anyway, go ahead, continue.
Well, no, I was going to say he came out close to the end, and he was eliminated fairly quickly. There was some story there where he had beef with Shane McMahon, and then of course number 50.
That's right.
Number 50 was Chris Jericho.
Yeah,
and
I
he had
remember
beef
now.
with Jericho, and he and Jericho were tussling for a while. And I liked that. We called back to the last year and a half of history. Great. I love it when WWE does that. They don't do that enough.
Yep.
We all remember, damn it. Like, yes, some of our short-term memories is not good, but some of it, we remember the damn Festival of Friendship.
Yes, we do.
That sticks in our minds.
And that year and a half worth of teaming up together with each
course.
other. So
yeah,
it's a big deal.
So I like the fact that they booked it that way, where Kevin Owens was there mostly just to kind of touch on those feuds, and then gets eliminated by Strowman.
Yep.
Who we should say, well, the other person that wasn't there, like you said, Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn wasn't there. That's a little bit of a sore spot because he wasn't there. In kayfabe, they're saying because he was sick or whatever, right? He was saying to Kevin Owens he's sick or whatever. He can't go. He is a Syrian Muslim, and Wahhabism is not exactly very how should I say accepting of other Muslims, and especially Syrians.
Okay.
So Sammy had a number of reasons, whether it was his choice, whether it was Saudi Arabia, like, could you just have the Syrian Muslims stay home, or what it was. Sammy was not there for other reasons that
I did not know that.
We did not exactly.
Now it all kind of makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So I can imagine that Sammy, being as much a kind of stand his ground guy as he is, would have said, you know what, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not going and doing this little song and dance for this regime. I can also see the regime telling him to stay home. I can see WWE just being sensitive and be like, let's just not.
Let's not go there.
Let's not take a chance.
Let's not poke that bear.
For whatever reason, Sammy wasn't here.
Yeah.
But the winner, my pick, the one that should have been your pick because he's your boy, Braun Strowman.
Yeah, well, that was just too obvious. That was why I didn't
But
pick him.
big guys don't win Rumbles.
Exactly.
Typically, unless it's Kane. You know what I mean? But big guys don't win him. Well, he was the only one that made sense, except for Daniel Bryan. He was the only other one that made sense, and it made more sense because they want to put the rocket on Strowman. Yep. And they did. The rocket has been strapped. The dude won this. The crowd loves him, even in Saudi Arabia. Like, he's up and coming. He's going to be a huge superstar.
Yeah.
He really is.
And I'm not mad at either of our picks, honestly. I think they were both right to pick those.
Well, they were obviously the ones that they wanted you to think were going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, they came down to Daniel Bryan, Cass, and Strowman, and the only reason Daniel Bryan didn't go over is because of Cass. Like, those were the two finals, really.
Yeah. So ultimately, we end up with, I got a paltry 4 right out of 10 potential picks, and you got 8.
Yep.
8.
Yeah. I
8 out of 10, sir.
Thank you. Yes. I apparently suck at WrestleMania, but the rest of the year, I'm money.
Well, this year's WrestleMania played into my strong suits of doing crazy fantasy booking because it was so unpredictable. That's the only reason I did well.
That's a good
so
point.
Let's be clear about that. I'll be honest.
my solid logical approach did not work for this year's WrestleMania because logic did not show up there. So let's have some final thoughts, man. Let's wrap this up. We're coming back here in November. I doubt it will be another Greatest Royal Rumble. It might be Survivor Series. Who knows what they're going to do? Or just even more of a glorified house show. Are we going to have another Greatest Royal Rumble next year? I mean, Braun got a belt. Not only did he get a trophy, there was a belt, a championship belt. Does that mean that this is going to be a belt that's defended every year?
Is this the new Middle Eastern Championship?
I don't. Right? Exactly. Like, what does that mean? I mean, how is the taste in our mouth after all of this? And especially because we are a week away from Backlash, how are they going to build to Backlash in a week?
I wanted to like this. Before we get to Backlash, I really wanted to like this, and I just didn't. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't have fun. I thought it was mostly boring. I'm putting that out there. The spectacle of it in being in Jeddah and the size of that arena and the amount of pyro that they just, threw money at, like they were just making it rain. That was the spectacle of it I was really entertained by, but I I sat there for 5 hours just going, I don't care about any of this.
Wow.
And I wanted to. And I really wanted to. And it was one of those, I was just disappointed, I think, is my ultimate feeling.
I have to admit, I wasn't exactly, on the edge of my seat for this show. But while I was watching it, I wasn't mad at what I was seeing in terms of entertainment value. Again, it was a house show. I love watching these guys work. But yes, it was not thrilling. The one thing that stuck in my craw, though, was the amount of pyro. With the amount of damage control that WWE has done in the U.S. as to why they're not putting pyro on their regular shows or even their pay-per-views, except for a little bit at WrestleMania, to have this much pyro thrown at you, multiple entrances. You had guys coming out, Bobby Lashley coming out for the Royal Rumble had pyro.
Yeah.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. What, really? Because it really, at the end of the day, pyro does enhance an entrance. It really does. And when you've built a lot of these entrances around pyro and then they're not there, AJ Styles is where you have the explosions, the sound of the explosions, but you don't actually have the explosions. Kane, where you have fake fire. Brock Lesnar, even his little little jump at the top of the stage, it doesn't feel as momentous as when there's the big pop of pyro at the same time.
And if you've ever seen one live, it's loud as shit.
Oh, it definitely blows
loud.
you back in your seat. And it's very impressive. So this really does fly in the face of all of that damage control and publicity they've been putting out there. Like, no, we don't need pyro. This is exciting enough without the pyro. Really? Because you just got paid $200+ million.
Do we have an official figure now? Do we know?
No, I'm just
okay.
That's not putting it out there. Whatever it was.
Yeah.
Some huge amount of money, and now you can afford pyro. It definitely left a bit of a salty taste.
So we mentioned that not a lot of belts changed hands. Frankly, did anything change hands? So is it kind of just
a vacant title got awarded? That was it.
Fair. Okay, so how do we build towards Backlash now? What have we got to look forward to this week? Did anything change, or is this a bump in the road?
I mean, you've had some stuff set up already for Backlash.
Yeah.
Most of the women's matches are set up because it wasn't like they were going to get advanced this week. Wah, wah. But at the same time, you had some stuff get set up. We know Samoa Joe will be facing Roman Reigns. We know that Jeff Hardy's going to defend his title probably against Randy Orton, I would guess. There's other stuff like I think the U.S. title or the Intercontinental belt will probably be defended, but we don't know. We don't know yet. They've got a week. They have 2 shows in order to build these. AJ Nakamura, they're having a rematch.
Yes. Well, we've got go-home shows this week to take care of those.
We do.
Yep.
Yep, and we will be discussing those later in this week. So I think that wraps it up for the Greatest Royal Rumble. Come back and listen to us later this week when we will be talking about the go-home shows for Backlash, which we hope will be a much more exciting pay-per-view where things actually happen.
Well, I heard a rumor that Monday Night Raw is headed to Montreal this week, and it's one of those where it's one of those special cities where you're like,
they're going to be hype.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, guys, definitely come over and join us in the Facebook discussion group, the Busted Wide Open Facebook group, and follow us on Twitter at BWO Podcast. And hey, if you like this show and what we do, head over to patreon.com/BWO. Throw $1 in the tip jar. Sign up to do your very own shoot promo here on the show. And if you want to rock some sweet swag, you can head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/store. Pick up a t-shirt, phone case, hoodie, coffee mug, all that good stuff over there.
And also, when you're listening to us later this week and we're talking about NXT and 205 Live and, we have New Japan stuff to talk about.
Oh, boy.
Oh, something big happened over there that we are going to have to talk about. I am beside myself. After you listen to that show, make sure to hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, whatever your podcast app of choice allows you to do. Leave us a review. Give us 5 stars. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what you'd like to see improved. We love constructive criticism. And tell us what we could do to make the show a better listening experience for you guys.
But I'm Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God!
Would somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.